Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Stuart Swerdlow.
Janet Diane Morius Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the middle of September 2019.
You forgot him.
Oh, and this is Jade, Jade Emperor.
Uh-huh.
Yes, from originally, Sochi in southern Russia, even though his ancestors came from eastern Siberia.
Yakusha.
Yakusha, yes. The coldest inhabited spot on the earth. Just what I like. Wintertime,
Who's
wintertime minus
Jasmine?
70. And there's his sister, Jasmine. Yasmina, she's called the Princess of the Caucasus.
Yes.
Even though she doesn't come from there, but that's what they call her. From also originally born in Sochi. Yeah, she's Sochi. She is Sochi. Yeah, I love you too. She's been a very good girl recently. She hasn't killed too many things or destroyed too many things. And I'm very proud of you for that. She even is starting to get along with the Maine Coon cats. And that's because they're getting to be as big as she is. And she's a little afraid of them. So anyway, back to the news. Because this is very, very important news, as it always is. But this will explain something to all of you. And I know there's other things going on in the world right now, but this is extremely important. Many of the other current news stories are cover-ups. And I'll explain that in a minute. China has actually declared war upon the United States. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
And they're doing this by killing tens of thousands of Americans, and nobody is holding the Chinese accountable for that.
I didn't know.
Are you surprised?
Yes.
Yes. It's a covert movement, but it has the potential to kill millions of Americans. And it says we don't have to fear a Chinese nuclear attack. That's the good news. The other news is that Chinese Defense Minister Wei Fenghe stated openly in a leaked government document which expressed Chinese war plans intended to utterly devastate the United States. And he stated that genetic specific bioweapons would be used to commit mass genocide against the United States while leaving the infrastructure and the 12 million Chinese who are here alive, and only non-Chinese would perish. So they have specifically created biogenetic weapons that leave Chinese genetics open, and luckily I have Mongol. I hope that's in there. So bye. I'll still be here. I'll make sure that everything is taken care of, don't worry. Wei Fenghe had a private declaration of war, and he spoke to the planning committee of the Communist Chinese Party, which is CCP, which reminds me of the Soviet Union CCCP, which is in Russian. But anyway, he called for the genocide against the United States and announced that their intention to create hundreds of millions of Chinese colonists who would become good Americans. Actually, they would say good Americans. Yeah. You don't like, you can go. Anyway, now I feel okay making fun of them now. He says the Chinese are facilitating a Chinese takeover of the planet. And they are beta testing these bioweapons against the United States through the weaponization of selected immigrants. That's very interesting. That may explain certain immigrants from other countries. Maybe the Chinese is helping George Soros pay for this. And according to a former Pentagon advisor to the Joint Chiefs, he said, expect China to kill tens of thousands of people in Hong Kong and import Chinese peasants into Hong Kong to take their place. Nobody would know the difference, would they? The Chinese government, to the Chinese government, human life and the loss of human life means nothing on any scale. When you have 1.3 billion people, if you lose a few tens of millions here, no big deal. You wouldn't even know they're gone.
So where did this report come from?
It's going to be on a link on the podcast. Everything that happens in China ties into their central planning, in which all 13 economic zones are connected. Here's the big thing. Organized crime operates freely within China, and the Chinese government uses organized crime to carry out heinous actions as committing street-based abductions and organ extractions. And then they can have plausible deniability and say, well, it wasn't us, it was these gangsters, but they're working for the government. And guess who does the same thing? The narco-terrorist in Mexico.
That doesn't surprise
Who is
me.
funding them? China. The organized crimes have purposely and successfully bypassed all the controls by altering the chemical structures of fentanyl. We hear about fentanyl in the news every single day.
Yes.
They've weaponized all drugs, and some fear that black market pharmaceuticals will soon fall under a Chinese umbrella, which it kind of already did.
I wonder if that's what happened to the marijuana that people
Well,
were.
this is the synthetic. The Chinese exported fentanyl and delivered to America by, guess who? The cartel-controlled empire like the Sinaloas in Mexico. ICE, the Border Patrol, and several other local enforcement agencies found 39 million lethal doses in the last 10
I
days.
think I saw that somewhere.
And here's another interesting thing. You know, California state government has released all these illegal aliens from prison. Many of them were Mexican cartel members. And that's been released. They say, oh, they can't afford to keep them in prison anymore. They're releasing them. And guess what? You may recall a couple of years ago the Calexit movement to remove California, to separate
Right.
And, you know, there was a time California was a separate country, and that's why it's called the Republic of California, even on their flag. And so, according to this, the Calexit movement was designed to collapse the U.S. economy and the agricultural system by handing off control of California to the United Nations, and California would have been classified as a protectorate of the United Nations. Interesting. Guess who was behind all that? The Obama administration, including its spokesperson at the time, Eric Holder, and the former disgraced Attorney General. Now, George Soros, the Mexican consulate, and various Mexican government officials were involved in the meetings about California. So was the Bank of China and a key Japanese crime family with strong ties to organized crime in China. And it is the Chinese government which is interfering with the sovereignty of an American state. All of these actions are definitive acts of war. And all the ones in here who supported them are considered treasonous. Hillary. And the domestic players, guess who currently? The domestic players that are operating on behalf of the Chinese are, listen to this people, for November, vote, Dianne Feinstein from San Francisco, Kamala Harris, but that's not even her real name, and Nancy Open Borders Pelosi. Now you know why she wants the open borders, because her pocketbook is getting stuffed with money from the Chinese government.
That's scary.
Yeah. And people are dying who are not intentionally taking illegal drugs. And you know why? Because some over-the-counter medications are being laced with fentanyl after the bottle is opened. Don't buy anything from the drugstore anymore. Use my herbal stuff that I tell you to use. So now you know the real reason for the tariffs on China and why China is more dangerous than Russia. Now you know the real reason what's going on. Here's another big scam going on, which I talk about every week. It's called the climate cult. It has to be you're in this cult if you're about climate change. But there's a number of inconvenient facts that undermine the global warming issue that people think is going to happen. Number one, emissions of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere are causing less heating than the climate models have predicted. Number two, there is no scientifically reputable method for measuring the human contribution to carbon dioxide emissions relative to other emissions. And three, measured sea level rise in recent decades is insufficient to account for the alarmist forecasts about the amount of the rise by the end of the century. And in fact, sea levels have been reported dropping.
That's why
land is
coming up.
appearing off the coast of other countries because the water went down. So yesterday with AOC tell that Miami's going to disappear in a few years. Maybe she should disappear now. Now, excuse me. The general public is unaware of these realities, and they fall under the victimization of emotional appeals about saving the world and shaming the people who disagree with it. Now, there are extreme measures like the New Green Deal, like I just mentioned with AOC, which really seeks to change the economic and political systems of the United States. That's the real thing. And people who have lived a long time, like you and I, hundreds of years, experience tells us that catastrophic weather events like hurricanes, droughts, and other things are not significantly more frequent or intense than they ever were. In fact, I remember worse hurricanes when I was younger and worse weather than now. Climate science has been corrupted by money and prestige to flow into it as long as it states the line the government wants and supports the climate cult narrative. Climate scientists have been bought with government money.
That we know.
And so have reporters, big corporations, and key politicians who want the power and the money by stating this fake line. So here, let me give you a few examples just this month of how the climate change and global warming is full of crap, which I do every week. Argentina. Do you think of Argentina as a cold country?
Not
maybe up in
generally.
the
the
Andes.
mountains.
But this is not in the Andes because just recently there was a 12-hour frost with temperatures of minus 10 Celsius, which is 14 degrees Fahrenheit, in Argentina, which caused severe damage to the fruit production in Argentina on September 3rd of this year. In addition, the forecast for Argentina is more frost with temperatures minus 3 to minus 5.
C or F?
Hey, don't you start calling me names in front of everybody. You know, the F and all that stuff. So it was centigrade. Fahrenheit would be 23 to 26. Okay, now, it's still summertime officially in the Northern Hemisphere. It's still mid-September. Well, guess what? Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and Colorado have snow last week and continuing. And your country, alpine ski resorts have opened for the first blankets of snow in Austria, which had a week earlier than recent years. And it said it's earlier than we've ever seen in the last few years. And in Alta Badia, Italia, they had snow last year on August 26th, and they had snow this week.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of snow up in the Alps. I've been posting on my Facebook page.
And Meteo France said currently in the Alps, they have measured 5 centimeters to 10 centimeters of snow, and that is in France.
Wow.
So France, Italy, Austria, snow.
Wow.
Okay, so I'll let you continue before Jasmine eats everything.
All right, well, I wanted to just mention, because this was all over the news, and the story kind of came and went, but President Trump's campaign manager predicted that the president and his family will become a dynasty that will last for decades.
I hope they do.
But, well, what's interesting is, of course, we have, they're only supposed to have like 2 terms as president. But what was interesting was Trump held, I don't know if you saw it, the sign up that said Trump 2024.
Yeah, I saw
Did you see that? But the thing is, they didn't say which Trump. So that could have been another Trump.
Do you love daddy? Do you love daddy so much? Yes, you do.
So
No, you cannot eat my papers.
So they like paper. So anyway, my point is that we need to watch the Trump family. And the other thing which is always interesting to me is there's really very few signs of barren Trump. Even though we know he's young, but every other president that's had children in the White House,
Yes.
they parade them around.
I just saw a picture of him yesterday.
Yeah, but it's very rare that you see a picture that the other ones are paraded around and everything. So because he's not in the foreground, I think he's the one to watch.
I agree.
And he's down the road a bit, but anyway, I thought that was interesting. And then Jeffrey Epstein. The reason I'm bringing him up again is because I've been talking to you about some of what I would call mystery deaths. Why are people dying? Well, apparently there was a detective who led the Epstein investigation. I think it was the first one. Anyway, he died after a brief illness at 50. Now, this was apparently last
That's common
year.
now these days.
It is very common. He's only 50, and the thing is that there's no mention of it in mainstream media, not even alternative media.
Oh.
And so the person who
So how did you
wrote,
find out?
this was one of these buried articles, but the person who brought it up was quoting from his obituary, saying that he was a lead detective in many major investigations, including the high-profile solicitation of minors case against billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. And no other information about the cause of death was ever released. And in fact, it was mentioned that Mike Mason, who is one of Rick Carey's closest friends, and a former Palm Beach police officer said that he last saw Rick Carey on a recent Thursday. And it was known that Rick Carey took off work the next day to spend time with his family. So therefore, we still don't know. The story was printed on a Friday, exactly even when he died. So it was very mysterious. And then it goes on to say that Rick Carey was just one of 2 people willing to put his career on the line to go after Epstein. And of course, Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder was the other man. And then apparently, they said that they were pressured at the time by then Palm Beach State Attorney Barry Krischer, is that how you say that?
Christian?
To downgrade the case to a misdemeanor or drop it altogether. And they both knew that they were being followed, in fact, which they were claiming perhaps by Epstein's people.
Good people.
And so they said they started taking different routes to and from work, and they even switched vehicles, and they were afraid for their families. And then now
Sounds like a movie.
Yeah, and then interesting, speaking of mysterious deaths, 2 of Epstein's butlers gave Rick Carey sworn interviews. And one of the butlers, whose name was Alfredo Rodriguez, held onto the book of what was called Epstein's Little Black Book. In November of 2009, he tried to sell it to an undercover FBI agent who was posing as a victim's lawyer. So he was arrested. I don't exactly know why, but he was arrested.
Because he stole something.
Sentenced in 2012 to federal prison. And guess what? He died 3 years later following an illness, just like this other mystery guy. So what was interesting that this particular author of this article writes is that that state attorney Krischer turned a blind eye to the case. However, he also says he's in charge of Florida's Crimes Against Children's Unit. So you would think he would not be turning a blind eye. And he was in a position where he could directly affect cases against individuals accused of crimes against children. So lots of, like I said, mysterious types of deaths, and we saw this with the Clinton administration, with
A lot.
a lot of people, the Obama administration. We've seen it, and now we see it involved in this. And this next story, now last week I told you about how many suicides by New York Police Department officers, and I loosely say suicide because I don't think they are. Now here's another one, a retired sergeant, 49 years old,
I read about that.
who shoots himself dead, making him the 11th active or former officer to take their life. So apparently he killed himself supposedly this last week, but no other details again. So I always take a look at these things and think, these people probably knew things and they're getting rid of them. They're cleaning house. So
Or they could have committed suicide because they knew they're going to get killed anyway.
I don't know. I think I would try to save myself. I wouldn't just kill myself.
Not like you can run away anywhere.
Well, you can. Anyway, and then the other thing I told you about last week, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more, is this number 3 or triplet. Because this, again, it's everywhere. So I just pulled out a couple of examples because, again, I think it's very interesting and just watch for it. So Apple just released what they're calling their most powerful and advanced handsets yet. Well, guess what? The price of the phone is $999, which upside down is $666, and $999, all your 9s are 3x3s. And then it has 3 cameras, okay? Then Jessica Alba, there was an article about her doing triple duty as a mom, actor, and business owner. Bette Midler listed her Upper East Side triplex for $50 million, and we don't normally hear about a triplex anymore, especially in downtown New York.
They're very expensive.
Right, but you wouldn't call it a triplex generally. But I saw somebody else's, and I didn't pull the article because it's all over the place now about a triplex. Then here's a study about women who have been threatened, called names, or attacked because of their gender are 3 times more at risk. And the University College London analyzed nearly 3,000 women. Then there's a carpenter with no children sends 33 strangers to college after amassing $3 million in savings. So it's not only three, but it's 3 threes again, the triplets.
Used all his money to send people to
The
college.
point is still the triplets. We don't really know, but they're putting out all these threes, so they've got to be trigger numbers for somebody. So, just do your work and be careful and be mindful. And another 33 days, scientists found a super Earth with water 110 light years away, in what they're calling a world first discovery, because they say it has the conditions to support life, and it says that it has an orbit of 33 days. So 33.
There's immigrants there.
Well, they're probably 33 years old. And then speaking of off-world, we want to go on-world again, this
do?
time under the water, because this was an interesting article that an underwater observatory went inexplicably missing from the bottom of the Baltic Sea. So scientists don't know why. It disappeared one night, and it said it might have been forcibly removed from a bay in Germany, and with it went the data about the state of the Baltic Sea. So it stopped sending information.
Well, you remember a couple of summers ago they found that object at the bottom of the Baltic Sea between Sweden and Finland.
Yeah.
And it looked like an alien object that had crashed into the water. And so that's interesting that it's in the same body
Same area.
of water.
And they said they only found a shredded cable, and it disappeared without a trace. And again, the cost of the observatory was $330,000. There's your threes, $330,000.
That's cheap.
But the day for this sort of thing was priceless. Now listen to this. They suspect it was a storm, a current, or a sea creature.
Oh please! I ripped that off and ripped the no.
A sea creature.
It'd be a pretty damn big sea creature.
That's my point.
So like Godzilla was under
It could
there
be a
and
very
ate
big. It could be a very big sea creature, because that's also in the news now. There was in China.
Yeah, I saw that.
There was a dragon-like water
Yes.
monster,
Did
a
you see the
sea
video?
creature. Yes.
It was really interesting.
Yeah. So, and guess what? It appeared in a river near where Three Gorges Dam. Another three. And that's why I'm telling you about it. Could have been a sea creature in the Baltic Sea, because now they're talking about this. Then
Don't go swimming in the Baltic Sea.
in Brazil, they show a scuba diver that came face to face with a 7-meter-long anaconda, and it was huge.
That is, well,
That's pretty big, right? And then they talk about the anaconda swims calmly and peacefully, doesn't have any, care about their presence.
because who's going to bother it?
Well, they're trying to say that they're not violent, so they want you, I guess, to like these sea creatures.
Maybe we can get one.
And then I want to remind you that remember in South Haven back in June,
Yes.
there was what they called the Lake Ness monster that was washed over the South Pier. And I have
But
the
that
link to
happens
that.
a lot in Lake Michigan. We see
Yes.
that a lot.
Well, but what we hear about it, but this we actually have footage of it taken from downtown with a live web camera at 40-mile-per-hour wind, so you can look that up as well. So there are a lot of things about under the sea that are coming up over and over and over again. So very interesting news. And that was it.
Wow.
But my most exciting news are new books. They arrived early. We have a pre-order special still available until October 1st for members only. So if you are a member, this is your opportunity to get the books. This is the first one you should read. They were written to be read together.
Yes.
This one first. That's why we're offering. And then this one. And this one's got a lot, for those of you who like
Pretty pictures in it.
Yeah, it's got lots of stuff
pretty
going on in there, and
pictures.
diagrams and whatnot. So the template of God Mind. And then we also have a new archetype card. I don't know if this one's on the site yet, but
think
it's
so.
the Ohalu Council. And so it should be on the site. You should be able to order that soon. That goes with a lot of the visualizations
Yes.
and exercises that we've given you in this book. So these two are fascinating. We've had, the first mailing just went out. So we're very excited to see what people have to say about them, because we're very excited about these two
And there'll
books.
actually be a third in the series based on next week's class.
Yes, which will not be available until next year.
Right.
So these are the books that you can also, our good follow-up, Stuart Says is always a great one. Montauk Alien Connection is your autobiography. And then Galactic History, Blue Blood, one of our best sellers, and got a lot of alien stuff for those of you who like aliens. And then we have True World History. So these are also really great books that you can add in to give you more background for our new books that are now out. Oh, and this one now is available on Kindle.
Ah.
People were asking, and this one we're in the process of uploading. This one should be
Ah.
available hopefully within the
Because
next
you need
couple of
both
days.
of them, really.
Yes, but this one, the Kindle store liked it better.
And
So
you'd understand this better if you read this first.
yes, so but this one's going up on Kindle hopefully today. But then by the time it processes, it takes a while before you can actually purchase it.
And when will the new medical book come out?
Well, that's in layout right now. So once we get that one back and everything
it's
is
not
approved
far
and
away.
approved, well, within the next couple of months.
Oh, okay.
So it's a bit out. So get these, read these first, and then get some of this history, get some of your personal exercises and visualizations done. So when the new medical book comes out, because usually the first of the year is when people get all excited about their self improvement. This is very deep level, so this is going to take you a while to digest. And the medical books will help you continue moving on with your mind pattern and improving your life by using your brain.
Those of you that have one,
There you go.
some of them that they write in, they don't have a brain.
So anyway, we're getting ready for our class, so our news is
Very,
a little short.
a couple of days.
And then we have the webinars, which will become starting, I think, the second week in October. So we've got to work that out. But that's on its way.
Yeah, I won't be here second week in October.
Good.
All right, fine. And of course, in 2020, there'll be 3 more books coming
Uh-huh.
out. Yeah, the third one for this series, the sequel to 13Q.
I was hoping to get that one out before.
That's not going to happen.
No?
And then the sequel to Diary of a Monarch. So those
Thank
3
goodness.
will be hopefully in the first half of 2020. Also, just a little personal note here. This morning, I read that Iran used drones, a drone fleet, just like in Star Wars, to attack the Saudi Arabian oil fields, and Saudi Arabia has now shut down their oil fields. So, guess what's going to happen to the price of gasoline and everything else? Right before winter, isn't that interesting? And since everyone's political, Israeli elections will be next week, the 17th. If I were voting in Israel, I would vote for Netanyahu, because Netanyahu and Saudi Arabia and the United States are going to create a peace plan that will be amazing. And Canada. Now, listen, I trash Canada a lot, and that's because Canada has been very mean to me in the last 15 years. And so, I have nothing against the Canadian people, and I think Canada is a beautiful country, but your government sucks
Your government will not allow Stewart in the country.
anymore. They used to, but that has stopped.
Yeah.
In fact, I used to live there when I was younger. Anyway, Canadian elections are coming up in October. Please do not vote for Justin. Justin. I had a thing with his name. You know why? Because Pierre's not his father. Fidel Castro is his father. And I don't care if Bozo is running, vote for Bozo. Trudeau has to go. He's a criminal. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, well, I just want to show the curves. I was sitting here looking at how pretty all of these things look. They look really great. So until next time,
Bye for now.
bye.